Let them drink cake. Babies are starving all across America, and this issue is being vastly underreported. Today, I'm going to explain to you what exactly happened and who is to blame. Let's get into this. CNN, 2 children hospitalized in Memphis because specialty formula is out of stock. ABC, 4 babies hospitalized in Charleston, South Carolina as a result of infant formula shortage. NBC, babies hospitalized at Children's Wisconsin during formula shortage. 11 Live, babies hospitalized in Metro Atlanta because of formula shortage. Newsweek, baby hospitalized after being fed homemade formula amid shortage. Bloomberg, 1 in 5 U.S. states is 90% out of baby formula. From Fortune.com, Abbott Nutrition voluntarily shut down its Sturgis facility on February 17th in response to several reports between September 2021 and February 2022 of children falling ill or dying after consuming formula products produced at the site. According to ABC, Abbott Nutrition products make up 40% of the baby formula market. Abbott's Sturgis plant is the company's largest formula factory in the U.S. Here's Abbott's statement on their own website from June 4th. Abbott is restarting infant formula production at its Sturgis, Michigan facility today after meeting initial requirements agreed to with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, as part of the consent decree entered into on May 16th. Abbott is starting production of EleCare and other specialty metabolic formulas with initial EleCare product release to consumers beginning on or about June 20th. We're also working hard to fulfill the steps necessary to restart production of Similac and other formulas, and we will do so as soon as we can. So February 17th to June 4th. Does that sound reasonable to you? So now I'm going to get into the science and the nitty-gritty as to what exactly happened. Why was this facility shut down, and was it justly or unjustly shut down? Gateway Pundit. Biden gangs shuts down the largest producer of baby formula in the U.S., causing national crisis. The Biden administration is not for Americans. Now we find out that the largest producer of baby formula was shut down by Biden-Obama for 3 months. We reported on the fact that baby formula is in short supply across the country and is being rationed as a result. The main cause for this baby formula shortage appears to be the Biden administration. The NRCC shares this. Before Joe Biden and Democrats took control of our government, it would have been unthinkable that parents would not be able to find baby formula to feed their children. Democrats' stunning incompetence and mismanagement of the economy knows no bounds. That's from NRCC spokesman Mike Berg. Biden is to blame because his FDA shut down a huge plant that makes baby formula in Michigan. In February, the FDA warned parents not to use certain popular powdered infant formulas manufactured at Abbott's Sturgis plant after receiving 4 reports of infants who were hospitalized with bacterial infections after consuming formula from the facility. 2 of the infants didn't make it. Abbott subsequently issued a recall of all potential affected products manufactured at the facility, and the FDA later shut down the plant after federal safety inspectors found Abbott failed to maintain sanitary conditions and procedures at the facility. Last month, however, the FDA and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention told NBC News none of the bacterial strains taken at the Abbott plant matched those collected from the infants, and the agencies haven't offered an explanation for or how the contamination occurred. For its part, Abbott says its formula, quote, is not likely the source of infection, unquote, though the FDA says its investigation continues. So what happened here was that, unfortunately, some babies got sick and some passed away, and they did the testing at our #1 baby formula manufacturing plant, and they discovered that the contamination, that those bacterial strains were not present at the Sturgis plant. Remember, they shut this plant down in February. It's now June, and the contamination did not come from this plant. This is intentional. Abbott Labs shared the following as reported from the Detroit Free Press. An Abbott press release stated the February voluntary recall involved 4 complaints of Chronobacter sakazaki, a common environmental bacteria, in infants who consumed infant formula produced at the Sturgis plant. 2 infants became sick and 2 passed away. The facts about what was learned about the cases of Chronobacter have not been widely communicated, the release stated. After a thorough review of all available data, there is no evidence to link our formula to these infant illnesses. Why was this plant shut down until only a couple of days ago? The company stated, Abbott conducts microbiological testing on products prior to distribution, and no Abbott formula distributed to consumers tested positive for Chronobacter sakazaki or Salmonella. All finished product testing by Abbott and the FDA during inspection of the facility came back negative for Chronobacter and or Salmonella. No Salmonella was found at the Sturgis facility. The Chronobacter sakazaki that was found in environmental testing during the investigation was in non-product contact areas of the facility and has not been linked to any known infant illnesses. Specifically, genetic sequencing of the 2 available samples from ill infants did not match each other, meaning there were no connections between the 2 cases. So not only did these 2 children not get sick from the formula from the plant, but also they weren't even sick from the same strain of Chronobacter sakazaki. In all 4 cases, the state, FDA, and or CDC tested samples of the Abbott formula that was used by the child. In all 4 cases, all unopened containers tested negative. The baby formula at this plant was safe. It was safe. It was not contaminated. And this plant was still shut down months and months and months later. Open containers from the homes of the infants were also tested in 3 of the 4 cases. 2 of the 3 tested were negative. The 1 positive was from an open container from the home of the infant, and it tested positive for 2 different strains of Chronobacter sakazaki, one of which matched the strain that caused the infant's infection, and the other matched a strain found on a bottle of distilled water in the home used to mix the formula. Again, neither strain matched the strains found in the plant. The infants consumed 4 different types of our formula made over the course of nearly a year, and the illnesses took place over several months in 3 different states. The FDA concluded its inspection with a 483 letter to Abbott on March 18th. This is a list of observations that point out where Abbott did not follow our processes and where we can improve our systems and protocols, the release stated. We take this very seriously, and we responded to the 483 on April 8th. Even before our formal response, we had begun working to address these issues, implement improvements, and take corrective action. Some of these actions have included reviewing and updating education, training, and safety protocols for both employees and visitors, as well as updating our protocols regarding water and cleaning and maintenance procedures at the facility. We immediately implemented corrections to address the items the FDA raised in the 483. We've also been making upgrades to the plant, including installing non-porous, easily cleanable, and sanitary floors. For now, pediatricians and health workers are urging parents who can't find formula to contact food banks or doctors' offices. They warn against watering down formula to stretch supplies or using online DIY recipes. This looks like another intentional effort to hurt Americans. This reaction by Biden's FDA is hurting parents and their newborns. So the FDA found some other areas of the plant that needed improvement, but you cannot leave the number one manufacturer of American baby formula, which once again, 40% of the market, you cannot leave their top plant shut down for months and months and months, especially after you find out that the babies did not get sick from the formula in the first place. If they need to make improvements, then they should be making improvements and continuing production at the same time. I mean, look at what we're talking about here. Reviewing and updating education. You can make formula while that's going on. Training and safety protocols for employees and visitors. Updating protocols regarding water. You can do that and still make formula. Cleaning and maintenance procedures, all that. You can do that and still be making formula. Any testing that should have been gone, that needed to occur, I'm glad they did it, right? I'm absolutely glad they did it. But all that needed to be expedited. This should have been like maybe a 1 to 2 week process max. Something like this has to be expedited. It has to be a top priority. If you need to get the National Guard in there, do that. If you need to, pay people overtime, get people around the clock working on this. All of this, the bacterial testing, it needed to be done with lightning speed. You don't sit here months and months and months later while babies are starving, while babies are being hospitalized. Our children, American children. You just don't sit on this and act like this is not a big deal. Sometimes when you're dealing with these giant governmental regulation bureaucracies like the FDA or the EPA and so on, you'll run into these people with gigantic egos, and they're just sitting there reveling in the power to shut you down and to go through and nitpick pointless, meaningless things that some other idiot came up with just so they could force you to waste your time doing more pointless paperwork, asking for things that are meaningless and contribute nothing to the process. I've seen this kind of stuff firsthand. There are sick, power-hungry weirdos that get off on this kind of stuff. There needs to be an investigation, and there needs to be a purge of those kind of people from the system. If you have to make some upgrades, like, okay, we had to put in a different floor. Like I said, get like 20 contractors in there. Get that floor in a day or two. Not months and months later. And these next two tweets that I'm going to show you here, they pretty much sum up the Republican versus the Democrat response on all this.
I rise in opposition to the Ukrainian supplemental bill, $40 billion, but there's no baby formula for American mothers and babies. An unknown amount of money to the CIA in the Ukraine supplemental bill, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers. $54 million in COVID spending in Ukraine, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers. $900 million for nonprofits and organizations in Ukraine, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers. $8.7 billion for economic support and funding in Ukraine, but there's no formula for American mothers and babies. If this is about claiming that it's about saving lives, let's be real, then we would care about war-torn countries like Ethiopia. So that's a bunch of hypocrisy because I never hear Ethiopia brought up here. Totally ignoring, completely ignoring our own border crisis, our own baby formula crisis, and brutal inflation, skyrocketing gas prices that no one can afford, but $40 billion for Ukraine? Stop funding regime change and money laundering scams and U.S. politician cover-ups of their crimes in countries like Ukraine. The American people do not support paying for constant U.S. involvement in foreign affairs while our own government fails our own country. Let me remind everyone here, we swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and our borders. We should be paying attention to our country right now.
This is crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene here. Remember, her response, how she feels, this is the side of the lunatics. So let's see what the sane and rational people have to say about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene said last night, $40 billion for Ukraine, but there's no baby formula for American mothers and babies. Stop funding regime change and money laundering scams. Here's how Jamie Raskin responded on behalf of the House Democrats, now a 100% war-crazed party.
Here's a formula for the destruction of democracy, repeating Putin's propaganda and disinformation and appeasing imperialist assaults on sovereign nations.
Raskin's response basically was, if you are mad about the U.S. prioritizing feeding the war machine instead of feeding American babies, well, you're just Putin's puppet. You're just Putin's lapdog. You know, a reasonable response would have been to acknowledge Marjorie Taylor Greene's upset about the baby formula crisis. And perhaps say something like, you know, we Democrats are upset about that too. And we need to be working on both issues. Something like that. But this isn't a reasonable, rational person. And he should not be in office. And how dare this guy use the word formula in this? He thought that this was clever, that he was going to clap back at Marjorie Taylor Greene by using the same words that she did. Oh, here's a formula. He's making a mockery out of hospitalized babies. And if you're a regular, normal, sane, rational Democrat, does this win points with you? If you're a far leftist, you know, you're just out there. I can't help you. But the regular, normal, rational folks, how do you feel about this? Does this make you feel better? Now, to add insult to injury, and just to show you how these fake fact checkers work, not only did we send $40 billion over to Ukraine, but the Biden administration allowed $10,000 worth of baby formula to be shipped out of here and over to Ukraine when we don't have stuff for our people. And they're saying here, oh, donations of baby formula to Ukraine helped cause the current U.S. shortage. Oh, it's false. No, stop false framing the issue. The issue is, if you knew in February you were shutting down the nation's #1 supplier of baby formula, if you were shutting down their top factory, you should have had some sort of national injunction on this type of thing where you do not ship out baby formula when you are creating a shortage. Not only was formula shipped to Ukraine, but also the Biden administration has been stockpiling baby formula at the border for illegal aliens. Look at how Newsweek frames this title. Biden sent baby formula to border for immigrants, Republicans say. Not that he did it. It's just that Republicans said he did it. Now, this is from May 12th. Most of these comments here are very partisan. It's everyone rah-rah-rahing for whatever side that they're on. But there is one good and open kind of centrist comment that I wanted to show you because we rarely see those these days. But it's by someone posting as Frank Goody. This one needs to be verified one way or the other. If true, Biden is even worse than one can imagine. And if the GOP is spreading false rumors, they should be held accountable. And I think that that is a legitimate point. So Frank Goody, let me help you out. Let me verify this for you. On May 17th, from the Daily Mail, GOP Rep Kat Kamak reveals video of huge stockpile of baby formula at the border center after being slammed by White House for sharing photo of supplies being given to migrants. Let me fix that. being given to illegal aliens while Americans struggle to feed their children. By May 17th, there were photos and videos and all the proof in the world that this story was true. And here we are sitting. It's the month of June now, and this title still has not been corrected. A Republican congresswoman took a trip to the U.S.-Mexico border to expose the stockpiling of baby formula being sent to border facilities while American families continue to face empty shelves amid a nationwide shortage. And she had to do that because she was accused of lying about the formula crisis after she shared photos she was sent by sources last week showing full shelves of baby formula and food at a processing center at the southern border. I'll play this quick clip of her.
Yesterday, I was on the border myself, and the facts on the ground are exactly how we have been stating them. You know, last week I received text messages and photos from Border Patrol agents showing a stockpile of baby formula, and there was complete outrage from the White House and CNN and other liberal outlets claiming that we were lying. So I decided to go down myself and film it. And lo and behold, not only was there stocked warehouses, but there were multiple stocked warehouses that have been not only filled with baby formula and diapers and wipes and clothing, but they have been doing this for months, and there's more en route. And this just points again to how out of touch this administration is, and they could stop this with a simple policy change. And to the Secretary of Transportation's remarks that they have been on top of this from day one, that is a lie. They canceled 43% of this manufacturer's production with no plan to backfill that market share that they make up. So how have they been on top of this? Because moms for months have been saying it was getting harder and harder to find formula. This is just another example of the broken administration that doesn't know how to govern.
Here are more photos of her trip. Remember, we have American babies starving. And not only are they starving, Dr. Mark Corkins, a pediatric gastroenterologist at the hospital, was talking to CNN in a telephone interview, and he told them that they tried to use other kinds of formulas made with chopped up proteins, but it didn't work. The kids couldn't tolerate them and became dehydrated. In the hospital, we give them IV fluids, and the other thing we give them is IV nutrition. That's not ideal, he said. The doctors want to feed these kids by mouth so they can use their gut, but the more they use their gut, the more it develops. The hospitals don't even have the specialized formula that these babies need, but it's sitting in warehouses for people who have not contributed one dime towards this society. Not only have they not contributed a dime, but also they are breaking our laws. They are lawbreakers. Biden and Kamala are out there with giant neon signs saying, poor people of the world, come to us. We will give you all of the formula that you could ever ask for. Don't get it from your countries. No, you come here, we'll give it to you, and we will leave our children to starve in hospitals. Because if we can't abort them, at least we can starve them to death. Remember, this could have all been avoided. There was no reason to leave that plant shut down for this long. This is intentional. This is intentional. And this is amazing. Biden's FDA commissioner claims there is no baby formula shortage, just a distribution problem.
So I just don't see how the FDA did not see a shortage like this coming.
Well, I would just point out that, first of all, the numbers that are quoted commonly in the press are incorrect. And I'll point you to a White House sheet that has the details of how we've been looking at the numbers as we tracked it. I don't want this to sound in any way like we're not concerned about the parents that are struggling to find formula for their children. That's definitely happening in parts of the country. But, you know, the number of stock on shelves was about 90% before the pandemic. Before the recall. And it dropped to about 79% at its lowest. And we're on the way back up now. And I'd also point out more formula was bought in the last month than in the month before the recall. And so there is formula out there, but we definitely have a distribution problem, and we're going to need to examine that.
Now we have from Newsmax. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said on Monday that his department can waive hours of service rules for truck drivers to deliver infant formula if needed. Sounds like Buttigieg has been listening to the FDA chief who's off in La La Land. Yes, it's a distribution problem. Yeah, let's get those truckers on the road to deliver formula that doesn't exist from a plant that was shut down, even though the kids did not get sick from the formula. Brilliant. We'll have truckers shipping products that aren't there. Thanks. This from CBS, baby formula shortages could mean life or death for kids with metabolic issues. I'm upset. I should be upset. And you should be upset as well. But look at this. Oh, the Washington Post. The faux outrage that Biden is stockpiling baby formula for undocumented immigrants. You're right. I'm not really upset by this. The parents who are in mile-long lines trying to get formula, the parents who are desperate to feed their children, that's just faux outrage. Like, are you believing this, folks? Like, can you believe this? Oh, wow. People being upset that they can't feed their children? It gets 4 Pinocchios. This is ridiculous faux outrage. The shortage of baby formula is a serious issue that the administration is seeking to address. But at the same time, the administration cannot be faulted for following the law and providing baby formula to illegal aliens. Anyone who suggests this is the result of specific Biden policies, i.e., his reckless, out-of-touch priorities, earns 4 Pinocchios. There you go. No reason to be mad. The Washington Post said so. And by the way, it has nothing to do with Biden whatsoever, okay? And if you disagree with us, guess what? You believe in letting illegal alien babies starve to death. I believe in sending them back to Mexico. I believe in shutting down the borders and not letting them come here in the first place. That's what I believe. You come here legally or not at all. And especially if we do not have food, we are not going to be giving food to outsiders. And if it comes down to feeding an American baby or a foreign baby, it's going to be America all day, every day. America first. Humans are tribal. I'm very tribal. Take everyone out of that facility, send that formula to those hospitals where children are at risk of dying. Send that formula to the Americans who need it. Send everybody else, all the other illegals, you're going back to Mexico. Because guess what? Conservatives don't want you to starve to death. So here you go. And guess what? In Mexico, there's not a shortage problem. So go on back to Mexico and enjoy your baby formula there. But do not take formula out of the mouths of American babies.
With store shelves still barren across the country, tonight communities organizing giveaways to help desperate families in need of baby formula.
I have no baby formula for my baby for the last 2 weeks.
An estimated 70% of the nation's baby formula supplies now out of stock. In Dearborn, Michigan on Friday, cars lined up for nearly a mile waiting for formula. Volunteers struggling to meet the demand as some in line were turned away empty-handed.
I'm just overwhelmed at this point.
Yeah, it's actually so bad now that Americans are going down to Mexico to try to buy baby formula. But remember, if you have a problem with this, you're some sort of phobophobe. See, what does the Surgeon General suggest?
I hear your advice to parents, but it sounds like parents are only diluting the formula or resorting to making their own because they can't get their hands on any formula. And some of them, we've talked to parents whose children have allergies. They can't substitute one formula for another. So, they're feeling desperate. What date do you think that parents who are not able to get formula right now will be able to get it?
Well, Alison, I certainly understand that pain, the concern. And if you are a parent whose child is on specialty formula, and you should talk to your doctor, your OBGYN, or your child's pediatrician about what the alternative options in terms of formula should be. A number of physicians' offices also can carry samples as well, and you can check with your doctor's office to see if they have samples.
Oh, brilliant. Go to the doctors and hospitals that don't have formula. All I'm seeing is people criticizing desperate parents for making their own formula and watering down formula Like, when there is nothing available, what else are you supposed to do? Oh, it's better just to let them starve. Just let the baby starve. Don't try goat's milk. Don't bother trying to put out a recipe for people to follow, because these are desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate measures. Just let them drink cake. Let them drink cake. This is ridiculous. I don't think anyone anticipated the impact of the Abbott facility. The reporter says, didn't the CEOs just tell you that they understood it would have a very big impact? And he said, yeah, they did, but I didn't. That pretty much sums up who some of y'all voted for. Let's see what Brandon has to say.
This could have been moved quicker. You know, the question you always, on every single thing, why didn't you act sooner? Well, I don't think anyone anticipated the impact of the shutdown of one facility in the Abbott facility. And it was accurately shut down because the formula was questioned in terms of its purity. And so once we learned of the extent of it and how broad it was, we kicked everything into gear. And I think we're on the way to be able to completely solve the problem.
Didn't the CEOs just tell you that they understood it would have a very big impact?
They did, but I didn't.
So let's see what Team Brandon did do. It's like they invoked the Defense Production Act for baby formula and announced a U.S. airlift. But that was May 18th. Remember, the plant was shut down on February 17th, and it took until May 18th for him to announce he was going to do something. And it took until June 4th to open the plant that didn't make anyone sick and didn't have contaminated formula in it. Almost a month after this Defense Production Act thing has begun. Like, what? The dramatic actions come after critics slammed Brandon for not acting more quickly to avert empty store shelves across the country linked to the closure in February of an Abbott nutrition factory in Michigan. Brandon resisted for about a week, mounting pressure from Congress, including Senators Christian Gillibrand and Marco Rubio, to use the 1950 law that allows federal interventions in private business decisions. So this guy had to be drug kicking and screaming and didn't want to do anything to help save the starving babies. Do you know why? Because it's intentional. That's why. Again, if they're not allowed to kill them in the womb, they'll starve them to death. The airlift of formula from abroad in the interim, dubbed Operation Fly Formula, will feature the military using contracted civilian planes to ferry the product to the U.S. after the FDA this week eased import rules, which is significant because about 98% of the formula that was consumed domestically was U.S. made. The Brandon administration is facing criticism for its response to the crisis, with Brandon drawing heat for telling reporters Friday that authorities could have only dealt with the situation more effectively if we'd been better mind readers, I guess. Let's see how well this Defense Production Act is working here. Have a video here from CBS, hardly a bastion of right-wing talking points. And this was uploaded on June 2nd.
The baby formula shortage, we know, is still impacting thousands of parents in North Texas. You know this. Although we're getting some help from international formula shipments, our Caroline Vandergrift learned that so many of you are still having a hard time finding what you need to feed your babies.
New data shows the problem is actually getting worse, not better. We went to nearly 10 different stores across the Metroplex and saw the same thing at every one. The shelves for baby formula are mostly empty. According to Data Assembly, a company that tracks the supply of consumer goods, 60% of all baby formula is out of stock in the Dallas market. Stores like Target and Walmart are continuing to limit the amount of formula customers can buy at one time, but there's just not a lot to choose from anyway, despite the efforts of the federal government to ramp up production in the U.S. and bring in baby formula from Europe.
We haven't had any luck at all at any shops. Like, my mom had to actually ship us out some formula that she found over in California, and that's pretty much what we've been like surviving off of for now.
President Biden announced the next stage of Operation Fly Formula yesterday. 680,000 pounds of formula product will be flown in from the UK and Australia next week. That's enough powder for about 8.3 million baby bottles. Unlike previous overseas shipments that went straight to doctors' offices and hospitals, this will actually go to retailers like Target. It's just not clear how quickly that product will hit store shelves. In Tarrant County, I'm Caroline Vandergriff, CBS 11 News.
The best response to all this is right here from President Donald J. Trump. The Democrats are sending another $40 billion to Ukraine, yet America's parents are struggling to even feed their children. There is a massive formula shortage, but no one is talking about it. It is a national disgrace. It is unthinkable that in the year 2022, American families are unable to get baby formulas for their children. Families whose children have serious allergies and require elemental formula are in even more desperate and dire straits. The pain that mothers and fathers are going through who literally cannot get nutrition for their newborns and infants is a mark of eternal shame on the Democrat Party. America first. To everyone who voted for Trump and is suffering because of this baby formula shortage, my heart goes out to you. I am so very, very, very deeply sorry that you have to go through this. You do not deserve this. And you know what? No matter who you voted for, your children do not deserve this. No baby in America should be going hungry. If you voted for Brandon, I reiterate, your children should not be starving. If you voted for Brandon, you are getting exactly what you voted for because actions have consequences and ignorance is bliss until it's not. This is intentional. It was obvious and they told you that they were going to do this. Okay? The internet, everybody has access to it. You did not do your due diligence. You did not research who you were voting for. These people, they came flat out and said that they wanted this great reset. They wanted to tear this country down. They wanted to make sure that you had nothing. And guess what? Now you have nothing and your children are starving and they're being hospitalized. And the worst part is that our children are suffering alongside yours. You played a stupid game and you won a stupid prize. But you know what? You don't have to continue doing that. Liberals, I get where you're coming from. I used to vote Democrat as well.
Obama is black! And I'm black! And you're black! The president is black!
But when you know better, you do better.
I can't believe Obama didn't bring the troops home like he promised. And if I'm being honest, politically, he's not that different from Bush. I mean, Bush starts the wars and Obama expands them. Bush opens Guantanamo Bay, Obama promises to end it, but then just keeps it going anyway. It's like here in America, we don't have real choice, only the illusion of choice. These big corporations come in here and they line the pockets of our politicians, and our politicians work for them and not us. All we've done is put a black face on the same message. Hey, but Obama's black though, right? Finally, we have a president who hasn't dedicated his life to trading political favors for campaign contributions. A man that is attacked on all sides because they know they can't control him. A man who can keep his promises because he's not part of the false left-right paradigm. Someone that can get us out of these unfair trade agreements. Bring back the American jobs that have been shipped overseas. Cut our taxes, secure our borders, and finally put America first!
Racist. There is still room over here. on the side of sanity, on the side of rationality, on the side of making sure that American children are fed first. That's what Make America Great Again is all about. That's what America First is all about. It's about protecting our own and making sure that we take care of our country and our needs are met before everyone else's. Next time, don't just vote Republican, vote for an America First candidate, because the Republicans are no better than the Democrats. They're also hot pieces of garbage. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and please share it. You can help us continue to fight in the war against disinformation by donating at paypal.me/rightleftofcenter. I'm River Wright from Right Left of Center, and if you're watching, you're probably right too.